Welcome to Podcapers, the official podcast of a place to hang your cape. And this week, we're walking down 100,000 crossroads with the Hawk of New York! Cue the music! Hello there, Capers, and as I said, welcome to Podcapers, the official podcast of a place to hang your cape. My name is Scott James Merridew, and this is the show where we talk about very geek and nerd-related topics, and I'm joined each week by a very special different guest. My guest today is a comic book creator, an artist, an animator, and a musician. Oh my god, he's the complete package! What a triple, quadruple threat! It's Randyl Bishop, ladies and gentlemen!
Hello, everybody.
It's great to have you on the show, Randyl. How are you?
I'm well. I don't know if I could live up to that intro, but I'm well.
I will make you live up to it. I will set you forth on a pedestal for the masses to gaze in admiration.
Someone needs to hold me accountable, for sure.
Now, before we get started, please tell the Capers where you're calling from.
I'm calling from Bavaria, Germany. I'm stationed here with the U.S. Army Reserves.
Wow, see, we've never had someone who's doing that. So that's because that's your day job, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Although I will say the last year has been the most financially great year for my art business. I mean, there's kind of a weird loophole for me is I can own my own business. I can have another job as a reservist. Something my active duty counterparts can't really do by regulation, but. It seems like every year the art business gets a little bit better, it gains a little bit more steam. I mean, obviously, I've been kind of hampered in terms of promotion in the past year or so, like since I've been doing this, because the conventions I can go to are limited. But wonderfully, I've been able to go to London and to Munich and do some other conventions as well here in Germany that have been just amazing experiences.
Because that's the great thing about Europe. I mean, it's not too much of a drag to travel to other countries to very quickly for like a day or so.
It sounds so fantastic, and Americans who haven't ever left the country, like they don't realize how convenient it is. It's like going to another state. I'm going to pop down to Austria. I'm going to go over to the Czech Republic. I'm going to go to Belgium. Whatever. It's just a short drive, and to American ears who haven't traveled that much and maybe not so great, we don't have a compelling motivation to understand geography that well, although I think European geography is probably stronger than any other place in the world for us. We don't necessarily know how far away that is or how expensive or inexpensive it is to go from one country to the other. So it's pretty convenient. It's kind of neat. Bavaria is more in the country than the first part of Germany I was stationed in a long time ago. Which was Wiesbaden, which is a capital city and more connected and plugged into the rail system than where I am now. But it's really great. Like I love London quite a bit. I've been there, I think, 4 times now, and every time I go, I have a little bit better of a time than I did the previous. So
London, it grows on you.
I look forward to going back. And exploring England in general, more so than just London. But
skip England and come to Scotland. It's much better up here.
Okay. I wasn't aware of that. I've never been to Scotland, but it's on my list.
Oh, it's amazing up here. We've got lush green hills, beautiful crystal clear flowing lochs and rivers, and a national obesity problem. It's amazing.
Well, that last part reminds me of home somewhat.
It's like you never. Americans, you think you've got the corner down on bad foods for you? Oh no! Up in Scotland, you know what we got? We've got like massive boxes you can get from takeaway shops full of every single fried food you can imagine, including fried chocolate bars, literally in batter. You don't know, America. You don't know.
That's pretty awesome. I gotta admit.
That's great. But Germany's really great too. I've been there before on holiday and trips and stuff like that. My grandparents, I think, actually lived in Germany for a while. I think my mum actually lived in Germany, which is very well. Because I come from I spoke on the show before, I come from a military family, an Air Force family. So my mum lived in lots of different places. My grandparents lived in lots of different places. So, thankfully, I never had to leave the UK. I just got dragged from one end of the UK to the other for my entire childhood! But anyway, I'm over it. So we could talk about the geography of Europe forever. Goodness knows, with Brexit, it'd soon be taken away from us. Damn you, freedom of movement!
I'm certainly here to talk about politics, religion, and racial inequality. Those are the three things I plan to just focus on and rant about. And I'm totally kidding. I don't want to talk about any of those things.
Those are the things that get you all the friends.
Yeah, right. Yeah, all the things that you don't bring up on a first date ever.
Not at the first date. You want the first date to go well at any rate.
By contrast, when I was growing up in the States, I grew up in the same home for my entire childhood. I was the youngest, so my parents were somewhat stable by the time I came along. My dad was drafted during the Vietnam conflict. He didn't have to go, thankfully. But the military influences my life as much. It also influences my work in comics. And I think that being stuck there, and my entire formative years gave me the desire to explore and travel. And I absolutely love exploring, although I've kind of in my old age and encroaching old age, I'm playing it safer than I probably used to in terms of travel. So we'll go to a more familiar or more civilized place than what I might used to.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to cancel that trip to Somalia. Just this once.
Yeah, I don't want to be like the guy who went to the island with the people and was taking selfies and then, became dinner for the people that resided. I don't know if that was in our news. I don't know if this is in the
Whoa, I thought you were referencing Far Cry or something.
No,
I didn't know you were actually, that actually happened.
Really happened. Some dumb tourist went to a place that was forbidden to go to because it was forbidden to go to, that he wanted the thrill of going there, and he was shot to death with arrows as he was trying to escape, and his body was never recovered. So I may not...
Because believe it or not, when a place is forbidden to go to, generally speaking, there's a reason for that.
Yeah, most of the time, yes.
I mean, it's a forbidden island full of natives who would be quite happily shoot intruders, but it'll be fine. It'll be a Disneyland Paris. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? I take the Forbidden Island over Disneyland Paris. Actually, saying that out loud. Ugh. Okay, but this is the thing that we said before. You do comics, you do music, and it's weird that we get some of that sort of crossover. So what got you into both of those mediums?
Into comics, or what was the other? I'm sorry?
Music.
Music. So I had a friend who was from out of state, out of Arkansas, and he encouraged me heavily to join the band. And I didn't even know really anything about the band or anything. I just knew that, hey, we like to hang out. Sure, it'll be fun. He's like, I'm going to play the cornet. And me thinking that this was a clarinet, not a trumpet-like instrument, I was like, well, I'll play the trumpet. So I ended up switching from trumpet years later and falling into guitar because the notes are all there. You just have to push them down and make them happen. Whereas with a trumpet, it takes a lot more discipline and it's more painful. It's much harder to produce notes, and it's more limiting because
it's both your fingers and your voice and your throat and your embouchure and things like that.
It teaches you, playing trumpet teaches you your embouchure and your breathing, which is important for singing as well. So it was like I was reaching out. With guitar, of course, you can make chords as well as single notes. With the trumpet, you're limited to only single note, no chords ever. Yeah, so my hat's off to any band that incorporates a trumpet, and that's one of the things I like to hear.
Well, in school, I was part of the jazz orchestra, and I played trombone. And my sister, for a while, played trumpet. So I have an inkling of how difficult it is.
Yeah, and trombone is like the French horn. It's one of those very underrated, underappreciated instruments. Learning to play trombone is probably harder than learning to play the trumpet, and it's certainly less appreciated. With the trumpets, get all the cool parts. They're the lead singers of the freaking marching band. They're the ones that get the melody most of the time. Not all the time, but most of the time they're there, with.
Meanwhile, the trombones are on the corner,
playing supporting Christopher Nolan supporting notes.
Yeah, being the voice of the parents in the Charlie Brown episodes. That's who.
Yep.
Actually, I say that one thing we did used to do in jazz band was we did a couple of Eric Clapton songs, which I really like. And when we did Layla, the trombone was like the wah 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 wah, and all the other people like na 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 na.
Well, music to me, like there's certainly an impact there. It's hard to know where where I went wrong. Where I got into it, as an individual, as an independent artist, I think I kind of found a formula that worked for me at one point, and I just sort of started doing that, and not really deepening, becoming a real musician like a studio artist would be much more.
Real musician in big quotation marks. Let's be honest.
Right. Well, someone like Prince. There isn't an instrument that Prince could not master. Like he could play pretty much any instrument masterfully. That is
the theremin.
That's absolutely a real musician, and you contrast him with someone else, and they can only do one thing, and only when they have the full support of a studio behind them. And I'm not trying to malign anybody, but there are people.
That's my job.
There are people out there like that. And they're recording, and they're doing really well with.
I see you, Kenny G, with your one instrument. I know what you're about.
Sure.
Of all the musical artists I could pick, I pick Kenny G. That should give you an inkling into my knowledge of the musical realm.
Yeah, that pretty much derailed me right there. I'm like, Kenny. Yeah, I'm trying to think of somebody new and popular, but I'm not quite so up on who's new and popular these days.
I'm the same. My musical tastes have always been very archaic somewhat. I prefer the classic stuff. I mean, my favourite band is REM. Let me put it that way.
Okay. Well, that's a decent choice. I mean, they've certainly written.
What do you mean decent?
They've certainly written a lot of really good songs, and then they performed the songs that they've written. And my hat's off to any band that does that. That they don't necessarily rely on somebody spoon feeding them stuff all the time. Although that's a legitimate technique, but it should be one of many techniques that a real musician is using. But anyway, I'm not here to judge.
Again, that's my job. I'm the critic here. Yeah, no, because you're absolutely right, though, because some people, they do all sorts of different things, they do all sorts of different genres, they do... That's the great thing with the advent of the internet. There's so many ways people get so many different kinds of music and different kinds of styles across. Yeah. Some people do the stuff that you do. Some people, do stupid parody songs of Disney songs, That's just things that people do. It's the things that people do.
I had this insight recently, and I can't let go of it, and I'm not quite sure how to incorporate it into my work, but we're kind of skirting around it, and it's, I think, judgment. Okay. Free from judgment is different than lacking judgment. And I think that artists in particular struggle with this relationship. If you are free from judgment, then you're much more creative. If you lack judgment, you can also be much more creative, but you also make horrible, horrible mistakes because you're lacking in judgment. And, I leave it to others to decide where the line is between the two. But, I mean, it's something that I've been kind of – how you stumble upon a big idea every now and then, and your brain just can't, let go of it. So I've been kind of turning that one over the past few days, just trying to think about what does this mean? What does this mean for me and my work? I'm on issue 6. I want to produce at least 20 more comics. I've got, when I first started, I had 35 planned. And with each issue, it seems like there's different permutations that happen from that issue that I didn't intend when I first began. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does mean that I have to kind of adapt my original plot line and steer it towards what is working and away from the things that aren't working quite as well. And to do that, I need to know where that line is for me personally between lack of judgment and freedom from judgment. So I know that's a mouthful, but that's...
No, it makes absolute sense because there's so many artists out there that just think about how their work will be perceived. They think about everyone else, and it means they try to please everyone, which is impossible. And there's other people who don't care about how it's perceived and just focus on their thing, and that's great. But that makes you an auteur, and it means that you're only guaranteed that one person will enjoy it, and that'll be
you. Pretty much. I mean, I think it's best when you write for either yourself or for a few people, and then go from there. And anything beyond that is just extra. If you're writing for a certain person, or I tend to incorporate certain biographical things into my stories. Although certainly the main character is not me. He's not intended to be me. He is an aspect of me, like all of my characters. And I'm particularly talking about Hawk of New York. I've got some other properties too, but Hawk of New York is my main thrust. I've got a strip that's carried in Grease Ink magazine every month. Now the magazine's bi-monthly. That's on the U.S. primarily. They've talked about doing a show in London, but I don't know where those talks are right now. With that setup, I'm not really in charge. I'm just the guy that contributes the strip every month. So the editor has his own promotion, his own schemes and dreams, and it's completely separate from Timebound Entertainment, which is my imprint. Timebound Entertainment is something I created after some things went bad with my first publisher, and it was just kind of one of those things that happen where people grow apart, and the goals that you thought were really similar in the beginning aren't so similar. And come to find out, this happens in the comics industry quite often, where you throw in with a bunch of guys, and then things, egos flare, and things happen, and you're kind of forced to go your own way.
And then Frank Miller gets involved. Oh no.
Yes. What is he not involved in anyway? I mean, oh my God, I saw him in person at MCM.
So I'll tell you what he's not involved in. Something good for the last couple of decades.
Well, I think it's amazing he's still functioning, and like in a world where Stan Lee lives to be 96 years old, we're kind of spoiled. Like, I mean, the man functioned as an actor and as a professional celebrity for 10 years at the end, in his 90s and 80s. Like, that's just flipping amazing. That is just fantastic, beyond belief, really. And we got used to it. We got spoiled. Like the comics industry, I think, just got spoiled. And a lot of the things, I mean, we were talking about before about lack of judgment and freedom from judgment. I think the Twitter sphere is an example of a lot of spoiled people arguing with each other. Like, they forget that, hey, this industry was built up by men like Stan Lee. And yeah, he gets criticized for a lot of the decisions he made. But he made those decisions on behalf of an industry that needed a persona like Stan Lee. And I think in his case, it was a case of somebody who adopted a persona for the public. And then eventually, slowly, little by little, he became that persona. Like, that persona was him. I really think that. I don't think he had a persona then. I think that just really was how Stan Lee was.
And that's part of the reason why we liked him so. I think that's part of the reason why we liked him so much, because he seemed so genuine.
Yes, and he was. I don't think he always was. I think he became genuine. I think he became sincere. I don't think he was in the beginnings, in the earlier days, and with depending on whose account of things you believe. I don't know what happened. I wasn't there. I certainly I don't get on Twitter often, but when I do, I try to say something that to me is important. And I said, after Stan Lee passed, I just wanted to make it clear, like, I'm not trying to be Stan Lee. I've got some things in common with him, and I've got a lot of more things not in common with him than in common. But I am in the Signal Corps. Stan Lee was in the Signal Corps. I have created comic book characters, and I'm interested in running my own universe. And of course, that's something Stan Lee has done. And I kind of think that's where the similarities end. Certainly, there's.
That's all you need, though. That's all you need.
I was fortunate enough to meet Gary Friedrich and
Yeah.
he's not exactly a household name, but he also passed away last year. He was the co-creator of Ghost Rider, arguably the creator. Co-creator is probably more apt because I think Roy Thomas had a lot to do with it, and certainly Mike Ploog weighed in on it too. Mike Ploog's the artist. Roy Thomas, of course, succeeded Stan Lee. Without Roy, I don't think Ghost Rider would have taken off. Oh, that was a pun and a very bad one. Oh my God! No pun intended.
Easy joke, easy joke. You made an easy joke.
An easy rider joke. I don't know. Now I'm stretching it too far.
They call him the Ghost Rider.
But Gary, like I was able to show him the comics that I'd made in high school of this character that rode a motorcycle, and I told him that Ghost Rider was inspirational to me as a kid. And I then asked him later on in email if I could use his likeness as a character, and he seemed to like that idea quite a bit. And so the character
that's where you get Mr. Olive.
Yes, Mr. Olive. That's right. When he shows up, he's dressed as Ghost Rider, and his head's cut off in the panel, and and when he takes his helmet off, it's Gary Friedrich, or at least appears to be. And that was.
Yeah. And you've left a very touching tribute to him and Stan Lee and other people in Hawk of New York.
Yeah, number 6. I just thought it fitting. I mean, since 2018 was kind of brutal, I think 2017 caught flack for being brutal too, as far as celebrity deaths go. But I thought it was fitting to put something to acknowledge them, because I wasn't totally sure that Marvel was going to do anything. And, I just came from Frankfurt. There's a really good comic book store in Frankfurt called Terminal Entertainment. The basement is full of English language comic books. So if you're ever in Frankfurt, you should probably stop there and support them, because in my opinion, they're probably the best selection of English comics in Germany. But I was down there, and what was I talking about? I got my plug in for Terminal Entertainment, and I don't benefit from that at all, by the way. But I was talking about Gary Friedrich, right? And I've kind of lost. Oh yes, the tributes. So I thought that it would be nice to honor their passing, and not really so much the passing, but their legacy. So I knew of this person, Doug Datar, who was he was a early supporter of Hawk of New York, and he had an ad for his own artwork in the back of issue 1. And when I read his eulogy, the last thing he asked for was, his last dying request was for everybody to do something nice for somebody else. And I just thought, well, this will be my thing. I know how he was a huge Stan Lee fan, so I knew if he was around, he would probably appreciate it. And I know his wife certainly did. I got her permission before I used it, and I showed her what I was planning to do, and she blessed off on it. So I hope that it inspires people. I liked that I could pass on his message and hopefully amplify it a little bit, because I think that's a good thing to ask for. If you're going to die in your 30s, I mean, my God, hopefully your legacy will benefit somebody somewhere. And I wish his family well, and the same to Gary and Stan's families as well. And I hope that their 2019 is not as hard as 2018 was, and that things are moving in a good direction.
Oh, I think hopefully things will go in a good direction, partially because of the things they did, and partially because of what you did. I think if you just put a little bit of good in the world, it makes the world a bit better. It really does, even if it's just a small
absolutely.
thing.
And I think that's the arc that I'm trying to go with for Eric Warden, the Hawk of New York.
I think now's the good time we should actually tell the keepers what the hell the Hawk of New York is actually about.
Yeah, I guess so. He's a motorcycle riding vigilante. He becomes one anyway. You kind of get to meet him as an orphan, and he gets in trouble a lot, gets beat up, and has this really strange I don't want to say power, but ability to learn things really quickly when he applies himself. But getting him to apply himself is somewhat of a struggle because he relies on mentor figures like Mr. Olive to steer him in a productive direction. Otherwise, it goes to seed, and he's involved in graffiti and starting fights and various other things.
Stealing pies off of
Yeah,
windowsills.
I think it was creating an incendiary device with the art supplies. Um, that was specifically mentioned. There's a host of other things, but Mr.
Kids, youthful hijinks.
Yeah, and Mr. Olive steers him in the direction of motorcycles because he's the shop teacher and he has this background as a circus performer. I attempted to novelize, although I haven't published the Hawk of New York, the first two issues. And what I like about the novel medium, and I haven't published any novels, okay, but I've published lots of comics, is that I can go into greater detail about characters' backstories. So, like, Mr. Olive is an alcoholic who's trying to get over a divorce, and his wife left him for the clown at the circus, where he worked.
No.
So it's just really a blow to his ego. Like, he's this macho motorcycle riding guy who his act is like he rides a motorcycle up a ramp.
And he loses his wife to Bozo.
Yeah, he loses his wife to Bozo. And it messes him up. So he's only took the job at the orphanage, a job that most anybody would not want, a job at Windham County Orphanage. It's one reviewer compared it to Cropsey, and I'm not even familiar with Cropsey, but apparently it's similar to that. Where it's just this sort of destitute, depressing environment. The Windham Care Challenge Academy, the building, I modeled it off of the Dachau concentration camps building as just to show how horrible the conditions are for the orphans there. It's sort of like you have people who go there as a detention, and then you have the orphanage separate from that. It's like a complex, sort of like kind of
designed to break the will and spirit of anyone who resides there.
Yeah, and it produces witless thugs as fodder for a corrupt police department, which I kind of touch on that later on.
Because I've for the capers, just so they know, I've read issue 1, I've read issue 6, I have not read the in between. I'm in a sort of Hawk of New York sandwich right now.
Well, I hope that you don't get too many spoilers from 6. And my intent is to write comics that you can pick up and read at any point. And I'm not sure about 3, but I'm sure that 4 is a good jumping on point. 5 is a good jumping on point. Hell, any of them are, but 1 and 2 are basically one story. When I read,
that's sort of the origin of Hawk of New York.
Yeah, it's like Hawk of New York year 1 kind of, and issue 3 begins 5 years later, and it's like a rhythmic retelling of the origin. But with more cowbell.
I got a fever. I'm the only prescription. I can't do Christopher Walken impressions. I'm sorry, I can't do it. I've tried for years to do it. So many people do great Christopher Walken impressions, like Bradley Cooper and all that shit. They do it great, but I can't. I can do Mickey Mouse. I can do the Joker. I can do Severus fucking Snape, but I can't do Christopher Walken. I'm sorry, that's a bit of a sore point for me. I do apologize.
It's understandable. The rage is completely relatable.
I have a fever, Mr. Potter, and the only prescription is more cowbell. 5 points from Gryffindor. That's what I can do. I can do that. I can't do Christopher Walken. Speaking of more cowbell, you incorporate music and musical lyrics into the comics. What was your inspiration for that?
Okay, specifically The Crow. The soundtrack to The Crow, and if you look at the soundtrack that's recorded for issues 1 and 2, I wanted it to kind of be a similar experience to the Crow movie soundtrack. Now I've got Pain and Fear or Love and Fear, something like that. That's the comic book soundtrack for The Crow. But the one that was critically acclaimed was the one that had all these different bands on it. It had Stone Temple Pilots on it, Nine Inch Nails, The Cure. It was just great. Really good album.
Tiny Tim.
I'm not sure.
I'm so happy, happy go lucky me.
Roberts is on it, and he plays Ghost Rider, which I thought was also really cool. But the idea with issues 1 and 2 is that in the order of appearance, they appear. The song lyrics that appear are in the order of appearance on the album, so you can put in the album. Well, okay, I start with the theme song because it makes more sense on the album to start with that. But then after that, it's in the order that they appear. So each subsequent song is by a different artist covering a song that is either familiar or historical. So you've got a better version of a song that was on the Easy Rider soundtrack, which is called If You Want to Be a Bird. And the new version is so much better than the original version. I encourage everybody to search for If You Want to Be a Bird on YouTube and listen to how god-awful it is. It's a terrible, terrible performance. But the one on my album is not. It's absolutely great. They covered it like a bluegrass tune. And I don't know, they really did. I did a rough recording of it myself because I thought I'm never going to get anybody crazy enough to try to perform this. And then I found the Possum Kingdom Ramblers, and they knocked it out of the park.
That's a sentence you just said. Okay.
Yes, the Possum Kingdom Ramblers is the name of the band. Sorry, I should have clarified that. I don't know if that made the sentence I just said more nonsensical or less, but
I think we fully accepted that we're entering into a magical fantasy world where we can just say shit and it makes sense. I think we're there now. And speaking of, so you did a theme song for Eric Warden for...
I did I wrote one, and it was terrible. And I was at wit's end because I wasn't able to come up with something I liked. So I called up a friend who remembered my character from high school, who's into songwriting. His name's Matthew Charles Miller. His tagline...
Who sounds like a 19th century author. I just want to say that.
Actually. That he kind of writes along. He writes with the vocabulary of one, which is a compliment. I mean that as a compliment.
Does he hang out with Henry David Thoreau and Mark Twain and people like that?
Only if they're drunk, or maybe I don't know. Well, anyway, his tagline is "Real American Music." So he's got this sort of folks rock, country rockabilly kind of thing. It's hard to explain. But he because he remembered the character, his subconscious had enough time to process it the way mine had, only he's a better songwriter than me. So he wrote this thing, and I didn't have to change a word of it. And so the turnaround time was too sharp for him to record it, so I recorded it and put it on the album. I hope to get him on another album at some point. I've had another band cover the same tune, and I like their version too. I'm kind of trying to collect as many different versions of this song as I can, because I certainly dabble with music and songwriting. It's not something that I exclusively promote myself as. So I'm more interested in writing, and I'm trying to figure out publishing and distribution now.
But I mean, the theme song is called 100,000 Crossroads, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really cool. And it's not really my kind of music, I will say that. But if you can make me enjoy something that's not my kind of music, you've done something right.
Similar to the idea of a novel being able to go deeper into the characters, I think that I'm able to present the characters slightly differently than I do in the book. And it's cool to see them in that light, because it shows the characters have more depth that way. I think they call it transmedia now, where you've got it's really
that's what a media doesn't identify as the gender that it was selected for at birth.
I don't think I think trans just means across, quite literally.
Yeah.
But it's something that has been around for many, many decades, but has only just now kind of been labeled as such. It's where you take one idea, like, okay, I'll use Action Comics #1 as an example. Creation of Superman. He didn't.
Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's a cliche.
Yeah. He came out not just as a comic book, but also as a comic strip, also as a movie serial, also as a radio play, also as a book, also as toys and Cupid dolls and things that were popular at the time, keychains, what have you. This all happened in the space of 2 or 3 years. And you flash forward to now and you think, well, gee, that process would be a lot easier. Well, it's not. It's a lot harder. And the modern example I like to give is Jimmy Palmiotti. He created a character called Painkiller Jane. Painkiller Jane's, I don't know if you've heard of her or not.
I swear I've heard that name before. I don't know anything about it, but I've heard Painkiller Jane before.
It's a great concept. And I'm not trying to promote somebody else's work here, but it's telling that he created it. He's got the resources to get it into film. But the process of making it into a film has taken him probably 5-10 years. And the film's not made yet. And it's cast, and I think I don't know what the status of it is. I mean, he's got a website called Paper Films that's worth checking out. It's him and Amanda Conner, who, if you know Harley Quinn, you know Amanda Conner's artwork. I mean, she is just badass. She is so amazing. And Jimmy's tends to skew more towards writing, I think. But he does it all. He's one of those guys that's been in the industry around forever. So I was really excited to be able to work with his brother Peter on issue 6. And Peter allowed me to meet my deadline of getting it out, get issue 6 out in 2018 versus getting it out now. So the book is out. It's
meet that deadline.
And Peter's just a great guy to work with. He's not got the breadth of work that Jimmy has, of course, but he's absolutely as talented and a very likable, approachable dude.
Because that's the thing, working in this sort of industry, you do meet so many great people. Sometimes it doesn't work out, but sometimes you meet people and it just works.
And I'm struck by how small the industry is. Like there's just like 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. Everybody knows somebody who knows somebody, and the longer you stay, the more people you get to know and you come across. And I'm constantly impressed by these people that I'm able to interact with, because sometimes there are people that I grew up reading their work, and I'm starstruck. Like I got to meet Frank Quitely at MCM, and that was a dream come true. Not that I grew up reading him, but my God, like that stuff that he.
You don't necessarily have direct personal experience with someone's work to know that they contributed something really important to the industry.
They're a big deal. When I met Tom Lyle, this is Tom Lyle teaches at SCAD, Savannah College of Art and Design, which is like an hour and a half from where I'm based in the U.S. in Augusta, Georgia. I think he probably puts this out to his students, so I don't know that it's tailored to me per se, but he said, when you meet your heroes, don't be surprised if you're disappointed. Or I'm paraphrasing what he said, but that's good advice. There's been some disappointments where I get to know a legend, and then it's like, oh shit.
Oh crap! You're just a guy, aren't you? That's a lot of people's reaction when they meet me.
I get the pressure. I get the thing that turns people into assholes. But I think that if you reach a point where you're bitter, you should probably stop doing conventions. You should probably focus on your inner, your mental health, because there's only so many times you can give the same pitch or do the same panel before you go crazy. And I think that happens.
As many independent publishers will tell you. Oh God, just buy my shit. Please don't walk away. Buy it, please. Anyway.
It gets...
So what we're talking about, one of the people you did also work with on the music video for 100,000 Crossroads was this model called epic
Yeah,
suicide.
epic suicide. So I'm doing my
With 2 eyes in
with
epic.
2 eyes in epic. She's one of those sexy models for the Suicide Girls, and I was.
Yeah, you provided me a link to the Suicide Girls webpage. I got on there, I looked at it for about 3 seconds, and I thought, nope, my repressed British mind cannot handle this.
Yeah, it's not exactly a family-friendly site, but
I did not seek this out, Capers. Randall sent it to me. He sent it to me. I am blameless.
See, there I was doing my thing. I'm tabling at this little. It was some kind of like fundraiser for a convention in Augusta, and at the time, Augusta didn't have any comic book convention, and she was just one of the customers. Like she was attracted to my artwork. She liked some artwork I had on display from issue 1 that had it was the image of Bill Thrall cutting up one of the girls, and it was really gruesome and basically R-rated.
And she looked at it and thought, this is my kind of thing.
Pretty much. Her fiance does this company called Blunt Force Photography, and it's semi-fetish, like these sexy girls get covered in blood, and it's really not my thing. I just want to clarify, not my thing at all. But it's out there, and as far as I can tell, it's kind of like marketing towards horror films. And the horror film industry is pretty big in that area, because Atlanta is, of course, the powerhouse. It's kind of like a second Hollywood, if you will, where Walking Dead is filmed and several other horror movies are filmed. So that's kind of what brought her attention to me. And then I'm like, damn, this girl has a pretty big following, and I'm trying to get this music video done. And she happens to look like Tara, who's this punk rock chick that Eric falls for in issues 1 and 2. And it kind of like struck me that I could do this. Like I could shoot a video with her in it. And so I approached her. We came to terms, and her fiance came out and shot the thing. I got some help to film some other scenes. I'm not happy with 100% of everything of that video. That was
because you've done other music videos, but you've done it strictly as animation. I learned
so much doing that video that I've applied to more recent videos. I've learned mainly what not to do. But yeah, I'm proud of the content of it because I think it tells the story well. But there's some scenes that I if I had a chance to, I would go back in time and reshoot them, because there's a lake scene, and the lake, you can't even see the lake at all. Like
I don't remember the lake.
I'm literally in front of a lake, and you can't see it because the lighting is so bad. Like pretty much anything that was shot outdoors, I would want to reshoot. That's my little nitpick with it. But you can't.
Speaking as someone who's worked on film crews outside on external shots and stuff, I can tell you it can be a bitch.
Yeah, I was completely naive. I had no idea. And I've developed respect for photographers since. But at the time, I didn't really think much about it. I was just like, well, I'll hire a guy with a camera. We'll go out. We'll shoot this thing. I'll come back, stitch together. No problem. Not,
you fool!
My car headlights will be fine. It'll be night. What the hell was I thinking? Like that will never work. Not for the kind of product.
I think it all comes together, though. I think the video comes together. I do want to say, I talked about REM earlier. I found your voice, your singing voice, to be remarkably reminiscent of Michael Stipe's.
Well, I mean, he's an influence, so thank you. First of all, thank you. I think
well, I'm glad you took that as a compliment.
Yeah, no, I do take that as a compliment. I like Michael Stipe's work. The thing, I did one of those Reverb Nation reviews that you pay to get feedback on your song, and it's like statistically accurate. So I kind of know where it sits on the spectrum of hit songs versus what's that one song that's so terrible? Anyway, it's above average, but it's definitely not top 10 potential. But
well, just because it's not top 10 potential doesn't mean it's not good.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's good. I think it does register as good on the feedback I got. But the thing that they kept saying was, he sounds like Bon Jovi. He sounds like Johnny Cash. And I'm like, they don't sound anything alike. I don't know what these people. So like maybe if you take Michael.
I mean, I don't often confuse those two artists.
I am from Arkansas, and Johnny Cash was from Arkansas, and I did belt out some Bon Jovi tunes growing up. So I guess.
What's that great Bon Jovi song, Walk the Line?
I think that was Johnny Cash.
I think so, yeah. I mean, it's weird, though, because you look at that music video, and you look at some of the other music videos. You've done music videos for two other people. There's, as far as I'm aware, there's Pure Ed, which, again, is really not my kind of music. It's not bad, but it's this is not my sort of thing. But then one thing I really want to talk about is the stuff you've done for this band called The Silvers.
Yeah, The Silvers. Okay, so they're not on my label. The label that I'm signed to is Gentern Records, and I think they were starting out. That's kind of how I met The Silvers. Is they were in talks with Gentern Records, but they couldn't come to terms, and so that I don't know that they split. I don't think they were ever a part of Gentern. So I think they were just talking. But anyway, I came across them and got linked into them, and I've done several cartoons for them. They're more like
they're weird. They're weird, Randyl. They're kind of awesome, but they're weird. I want to make that very, very clear. This is The Silvers. I don't even know how you would describe. There's a couple of music videos, and it's very like sort of like a Beach Boys, Beatles sort of band. But I really like that sort of music. That really speaks to me, appeals to me. I really enjoy the music. Then you've got this cartoon where they go to this place called Surf City, and there's talking whales in a kilt, and like Black Bart and a fucking mean jellyfish lady person, and I don't know what the fuck am I watching.
The whale with the kilt speaks with a Mexican accent too, which I thought was a nice touch.
And he's called like what's he called, like Shubba?
I don't really write the show, although like I certainly have input.
Yeah, you just got to take the script that these two guys have given you. Was it Mick and
so like I met Juan Carlos Cuartordia, who's from Argentina, in the process of making my first video, 100,000 Crossroads, and I hired him on, and I remembered what a good job he'd done, so I hired him back to help me out with the Silvers. So we're on this hike, and in Germany, like he came to stay here for a little while. We worked on some other projects. And we came across this really weird yellow and black lizard on this nature trail. And I thought it would be really funny to include it as a character on the island and make him the king of the island of Silver Surf City. And Mick let me put the scene in of him hang gliding across the end of one of the videos. But we're still talking about whether or not he's, in fact, genuinely the king of the island. So there you go. There's some more weirdness for you.
It's weird. It's so weird because you got like this like old Beatles, Beach Boys band just go to this alternate dimension where there's hoverboards and electric eels power their instruments, and there's a dog. I don't just look up the Silvers Surf City on YouTube, Capers, and you see what I'm talking about, and you'll realize just what an absolute trip it is.
Silvers is one of those words where you get mixed results. So put in the Silvers Watch Out. That's the video I'm proudest of. It's the one set in London, and it's got elements of James Bond and the 19th.
They're on Abbey Road and stuff like that, and I really enjoyed
the Batman '66. There's scenes from the Batman '66 movies that have been recreated in that video as well, and that one was probably the most fun to work on. The island stuff is kind of like Lost, only really weirder.
I mean, here's the thing though. The Beatles, they did those sort of cartoons back in the 60s. Those sort of weird cartoons. Not even just like they had a TV series. I think the Monkeys had a TV series and stuff like that. So this is not something new.
Yeah, they're all real people. Like Mick is the mover and shaker of the group, and then Drew is probably number two. Like the Silvers was originally called Silver Laughter, and they've been around since the 70s. And they, I think in the 90s, changed their name to the Silvers. I'm not sure, but they're actually getting song play in London. They're on WOA FM 99 with DJ Oliver Sean or Oliver Scene. I'm not sure how you pronounce it.
It's pronounced Sierra Echo Alpha November.
Yes, it is.
That'll be Sean.
Okay,
then.
Sean. And they're in Shindig.
Military people know the NATO phonetic alphabet.
What a lot of people are like, what just happened? They're just scratching their heads like, I don't understand what just happened.
My parents taught me that growing up, and so I've always sort of known it, and so I just incorporate because it's just easier. Honestly, if you want to make your life a bit easier, if you're giving directions to someone or information over the phone or something like that, just do that because it's much easier. Oh god. Yeah, and that's another thing because with that's pure animation. Those Silver's videos, but
all ages, like it's. I use my kids as kind of like a sounding board, a captive test audience to see what they laugh at. Like they get to see early versions of the cartoons.
Daddy, I want to play outside. You will watch the video.
You have to fill out the survey. No, I just watch them and see what they're laughing at, and if whatever parts they're laughing the most at, I'll encourage in the script. So I'll try to highlight things in the script that Drew Youngs and Mick Wharton are their names. Like they're the ones that do all the writing, and all the music is them. Like I have nothing to do with music. Occasionally I'll help out with sound effects, but that's not really my bag, baby. So, yeah.
Oh, look at you with the half-feeble attempt at an Austin Powers reference. If you're going to do an Austin Powers reference in this day and age, you commit 100%. Like, for example, I'll give you an example now. Do I make you horny, baby? Randy, baby! There! You see, I did it! It was terrible, it was shit, it made no sense, but I did it 100%! I committed!
I wasn't sure if that would be caught or not, so I was trying to slip one by, but it can't get anything by you.
No, you cannot! Just like, actually, one thing I did notice, in one of the credits for one of the... I did several things. I want to go back to the comics briefly and talk about Hawk of New York. So there's Hawk of New York, but at one point there's a sort of an extra sort of strip, if you will, an extra sort of little story about this guy called Cucumbersome, who is a cucumber who orders a gun to shoot someone in the head with that's been bullying him, along with a trench coat and a fedora, and he's known as Cucumbersome, and he's a cucumber. He is a vegetable that is a cucumber called Cucumbersome, which is the best fucking pun name I have ever read in my entire life. What the fuck is this story?
That's one of my proud sponsors, J.R. Mount's work there. That's all 100% him. He's got this idea for a character called Cucumbersome, and the title is Fried Pickle Noir, and it's kind of like this Rorschach-esque fried pickle that's anthropomorphic, and man, the more I talk about it, the more it seems like he should be on the Silver someday, like as a cameo or something. But JR works really hard. Like he promotes himself all over the U.S. And he just keeps going. Like you can't stop the dude. Like he has more than just fried pickle noir. He's got Scary Tales, I think, and you just have to look him up. J.R. Mounts. He's really a nice dude and highly prolific. Like he's got Stuck in My Head, which is something that is similar to what I did that with the soundtrack. Like he's worked songs into his work, which happened after I released mine. I have to say, just for the record, like I put out the book and record set.
I did it first,
which is issues 1 and 2 is the book and record set that has the music video and the audio available on my website timebound.co. And you can buy it.
Link in the show notes, capers.
If you have I do international shipping. Like now that I'm in Germany, I've got an address in Germany that permits me to do shipping. So if you have trouble with the interface, because it's a US based interface, just let me know. Just like email me or hit me up on Facebook or something, and I'll work with you and make sure you get the product. I had my comic for sale at Orbital Comics in London, and another store whose name escapes me right now. And it sold pretty well. Like I was pretty happy with them, and I'd give a shout out to them if I could recall their names. But I really do like.
I'm sure they're listening, and I'm sure they
Yeah,
appreciate
right. I
it.
have to get all my plugs in. I got a list here. Let me check that one. Okay, I checked off.
But that means someone else you could probably plug is someone who also worked on the comics, someone who I think is probably related to you, Ashley Bishop.
Oh yeah, that's my wife. She was the letterer on issue 1 and 2, and I love her very much. Miss her very much. She's back in the States with my kids, Ella and Adam.
Hi. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Ashley. Your work is appreciated.
She has been a constant source of inspiration for me. Like keeps me going.
Oh, I'm really glad to hear that, and it's good that you're keeping going because I am interested to see where this story goes. So I think you mentioned earlier, but just to recap, what exactly is the future of Hawk of New York?
The story is a window into a universe. It's centers on Eric Warden because he's got a pivotal role in that universe. There's another comic book I did called Killing Time, and that's the start of the Time-bound universe. So if you want to start at ground zero, you really got to start with Killing Time. Eventually, there's going to be a sequel to Killing Time. I worked on one with Dean Lee, who I have to give a shout out to Adrian McIlroy-Speed because he had a series called Privateer that I worked on with Dean. But unfortunately, that sequel to Killing Time didn't. It just didn't pan out because I wanted to do a bigger story than what we've written. And there was nothing wrong with the story. It's just that I didn't feel like the scope of it was big enough.
It wasn't what you needed. It wasn't what the story could have been.
Yeah, it was fine. Like the story was fine. The artwork was great.
But that's the thing, you don't want a fine story, you want a good story.
Well, yeah, and it would have been good. I could still do it. I mean, I've got enough that I could still publish it, but I'm holding off on it. I've got several scripts I'm just sitting on that I'm not going to publish anytime soon. But there's one that I've been sitting on for 10 years that I'm planning to publish next year. And I'm really excited because the writer has pretty much given up all hope, But I'm like,
well, I'm excited now too.
I'm working up to it. I've been telling him that for years. But to circle back to Killing Time, the concept is that the Grim Reaper and Father Time are brothers. The Grim Reaper is, I think, the older brother of I can't remember what I wrote. The older brother of Father Time.
So death is older than time.
Yeah, and he is manipulated into killing his own brother. So he has murdered Father Time. And he's manipulated by an outside entity called the Dark King. The Dark King, you never see his face, has got this stone of power called the Power Seed. The Grim Reaper has the blade, which is what can end life, and Father Time has the hourglass. Well, he's seized control of the hourglass, and he's turned the blade onto Death. So Death is locked in a struggle with his own blade because the guy with the Power Seed, which is all power in all the universe, is more interested in playing with time. So then we cut. This is a cosmic, like bigger scale kind of story. It was a 24-hour comic book, so it's very rushed. The pacing moves really quickly. The 7 deadly sins are introduced in this comic book because they're also in the same realm, the non-universe. And the non-universe is this extra-dimensional reality that it surrounds Eric's universe, which is more like ours. Eric's universe is just a slight exaggeration of ours. Like there's not much magic. There's not much. There's no Superman. There's no people flying around. Eric is the only vigilante we're permitted to see. You find out later that there's been other vigilantes and heroes and whatnot, but it's not super densely populated the way Marvel or DC's universes would be.
as you say, it's a glimpse into a
Yeah.
bigger, more stranger world.
So you start off in the wrong decade. You start off in the 1980s with Falcon of New York because time has been killed, and it doesn't. I compare it to a ship whose captain has been murdered, and the ship is still moving, but it's not necessarily on course, and it's kind of got.
And I don't like the look of that iceberg over there.
Things can happen with time in the time-bound universe, and it's very gradual. It's not something that's obvious, and it's not meant to be obvious. You're not meant to detect it at all in Hawk of New York, not yet anyway. But it will slowly, because it's issue 6 and it's 1993. It's not even current times yet. So you're going to see things happen with the time stream that you wouldn't in a more standard eventually, if I survive long enough to tell it.
There's going to be wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey adventures. I love it. Eagerly...
They'll eventually be... and it'll be addressed. Like, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end to my universe. And there's a beginning, middle, and end to Eric Worden. So hopefully people are on board with his development as you kind of got to watch him grow from a boy into a man. And I think he's officially a man in issue 6. Like he thought he was a man in issue 4, but he's been through enough by issue 6 that he's legitimately, the square-jawed protagonist that you start off with.
Well, absolutely, and I look forward to seeing the new depths that we can go to with this guy. I'm actually quite intrigued, honestly, to see where he's going to end up in the future. But one thing I am also intrigued about in terms of the future is what cons are you going to be going to in the future? Where can people find you and find your work?
The next convention I'm planning to go to is the Augusta Toy and Comic Show in Augusta, Georgia in June. And kind of when I took this job with the Army, I had to curtail my con schedule somewhat. And I decided to only promote at the Augusta Toy and Comic Show stateside. Now, in Europe, my agenda's open. I'm actually looking at conventions that I could go at in Europe this year, but I'm not aware of any. I've talked to the people that run German Comic Con, and I'm excited to maybe get back into that circuit again because I did Munich last year, and that went over really well. So I'm hoping to do something like Munich again. But I would guess a German Comic-Con is in my future this year, but maybe not. I'm going home in September, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to do another European Comic-Con, unfortunately. Although I do plan to go back to England before I leave the continent, though, for sure.
Before it also leaves the continent. Except that's not how it fucking works, you stupid man!
Heart just hearing that. That's so bad. It's like you with your Brexit and us with our Trump.
Oh, God, it's just a shit show. Everywhere is a shit show. Thank goodness we have some cool music and some great comics to read to distract us all from the nightmare we live in.
That's one good thing about comics, and one good thing that Marvel Comics did do when Stan Lee passed was that out of all the Stan Lee soapboxes they could publish, they went with Stan's soapbox on what Marvel Comics' agenda is, and their agenda is to entertain. And hopefully that's how I come across as well with my tiny little label, Time Bound Entertainment.
Well, I mean, I certainly had a lot of fun. I was very entertained, so I think you're on your way.
It's meant to be inspiring. That's my tagline, is pioneering inspiration, and it's for people like J.R. Mounts who come up with their own soundtracks. And I'm not saying that he necessarily took inspiration from me. He maybe did. He maybe did not. But I know for a fact that other people have. And that is it's like the most encouraging thing you can feel as a creator, is to know that you inspired somebody else to do something cool. And that's what keeps me alive and coming back for more. And my deadlines with Grease Inc. magazine have keeps my mind on the fact that people are reading this, and it's very encouraging. The thing that set Hawk of New York apart from all other comics that were produced by indie guys at the same era, most of whom aren't around anymore, not from the Atlanta comic scene that it was my first convention, is that I printed it on newsprint. That was something that nobody was doing at that time. And a year and a half later, Peter Smeddy with Alterna Comics announced a newsprint line. Shortly before his announcement with Bleeding Cool, he contacted me and wanted to know who I'd printed through. And I told him, and he went with a different printer. I'm not like it's something that I'm very encouraged to see, because I think that people were ready for a return to the days of newsprint when comics were just simply entertainment, and not this what we have had in the past couple of years, where you've got the ugliness of Comicsgate and the NPCs that just keep stirring things up and dividing an already small community. That it's like, why? Who gives a shit? Like, what side of political aisle you sit on if you can draw? Who?
Can we not just sit around, read our comics, and have a good time that includes everyone?
It's like Stan Lee said. You're supposed to be an entertainer. You're supposed to provide entertainment, not destroy institutions, not go after people that have done nothing wrong, and compare them to the lowest parts of humanity's history. That's not fair, and it's certainly not something that I want to get involved in. It makes me want to stay away from Twitter whenever I hear people arguing on Twitter. I'm on there, but out of obligation, because I can't function without having some kind of presence there. Facebook has been good to me in the past, although their algorithm has changed to the point that it doesn't really support small businesses the way it once did, unfortunately.
No.
It kind of
Imagine that! Something on the internet's not supporting a small business.
I really appreciate those same 6 guys liking and sharing my posts, though.
Well, that's the thing, is that I think if you put a dedicated fan base, however big, however small, then that gives you something to inspire people with, and it means that you can just, as we say, keep on saying in the show, and keep on saying on this episode, just project a little bit of good in the world, and it makes all the difference. And I think on that note, we're going to end the show. Thank you very much for joining me today.
It was definitely my honor and pleasure being here, and I think you got a great podcast here. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you being on the show. And if you enjoy the show, Capers, please tell your friends, shout it from the rooftops! And if you haven't already, go back and listen to some of our other super episodes, like one of the last nearly 101 that we've done. I can't remember them all off my top of my head. Do your own research! And you can listen to the show on iTunes, Podbean, YouTube, Spotify, or at podcapers.com. We have a Patreon. Check out the rewards. Patreon.com/APTHYC. If you want to get in touch with us, suggest show topics, or maybe come on the show yourself, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at AP2HYC, or email us at podcapers@AP2HYC.com. Thank you very much to Dan Harris for our logo, the lovely microphone, and the red and blue 3D glasses. Those are mine. And thank you for listening. This has been Podcapers, the official podcast of a place to hang your cape. Cue the music!